I'm going to call the meeting to order. We've got a flag from my supply. Eric, can I ask you to lead the pledge, please? You're you're possibly in your last year, so I'm sure you'll talk about that at a later point in time. But
yeah, I absolutely will. So, ready? Salute.
Yes, please.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Eric.
You're welcome.
All right, so just to review, now that we're on the record, we are one person shy of a quorum. I'm talking slowly, look at my screen again. And so to move forward with the meeting and waiting until we address action items until we have a quorum, we're gonna, unless there's objection, I'm gonna defer item number 3 as a trailing item until such point as we have a quorum, and then we'll take that item up as early as possible after establishing a quorum. Is there objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
And Mr. Chair, if you would like to ask if there's any public comment, and then also for the benefit of all involved, I can walk through the committee members present and then the guests present as well.
Yes, let's do this, Eric. Let's do those in reverse order. If we just take the roll in the fashion that you described and introduce the guests, when that's done, ask for public comment, and then move to item 4.
So our Delta Protection Advisory Committee members present at the meeting are Chair Mark Pruner of Clarksburg, who represents Delta General Public, Robin Brown of RIDE, who represents Delta Business, Mariah Looney of Stockton, who represents a Delta organization, Stacy Sherman, who is with the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, so representing a state agency, Jim Cox of Antioch, representing Delta Habitat and Conservation non-governmental entity, Russ Ryan of Metropolitan Water District, representing a Delta water exporter, and then in addition, ex officio members Douglas Shaw, representing a Delta cultural preservation entity, Mario Manzo is ex officio from the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation, Donnie Ratcliffe, ex officio from U.S. Department of Fish and Wildlife. In addition, we have Bill Wells from the Delta Chambers, Nancy Morgan from Point Heritage Development, our consultant working on the Delta National Heritage Area, and Dick Zhu with Solano County. And Jennifer Rogers is attending as well. And then in addition, we have our speakers that will be on the program a little bit later, Dr. Jess Rudnick, Lita Bridey, and Andrew Kirsten on different items. Kirshen, I'm sorry, Andrew, on different items. So that's who we have present, and we're still at 6. Oh, I'm sorry, and Todd Bruce.
Yeah.
Todd, I'm so sorry. I was highlighting people, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We do have 7 committee members present, Mr. Chair, so we do have a bare quorum. And
very good.
Sorry about that, Todd. Todd Bruce of Vacaville, representing Delta Recreation.
Good, welcome, Todd. And can I just call out Stacy? I haven't met you yet. So glad to have you. Jim Starr was a great member of this group and committee for a long time, and we're just really glad to have CDFW on the committee. So thank you for joining. Let's move to, we have a quorum. Looking at item 2, is there any public comment? I won't do the boring presentation. Your opportunity to address the committee, anything not on the agenda, but we run a more relaxed ship here. No item, nobody's raising their hand. Item 3, election of chair and vice chair. As you all know, I sent an email out last week saying I've been on this committee for 8 years, been the chair for almost 8 years. My 8th year will conclude this coming May. And at the beginning, this committee was reconstituted. And thanks to Eric the entire time. Eric's been vital in helping us to provide timely advice and support to the commission, and help us in putting forward some of our own ideas for consideration and adoption by the commission over time. And I just think it's time for me to kind of step aside and move on. And so therefore the email. And I understand from a conversation I had with Barbara that she is also resigning effective immediately, and of course is not running for vice chair. I intend to stay on through the end of my term in May, and serve in whatever capacity the committee wants, preferably not as chair or vice chair, but whatever the committee wants. So with that said, thank you to everyone here, and I'm thinking I see faces of people that were on the committee in the past and no longer here as well. Eric.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. If I can make one more announcement to
Yes.
all, which is that Lindsay Liebig, who since our last DPAC meeting, she has taken a new position. She's the new executive director of the California Ag Commissioners and Sealers Association. So they're the entity that represents county ag commissioners and county sealers. The people who weigh stuff, not the people who hunt seals. Anyway, so she has a new position, and I thought she was going to be able to continue on DPAC, but she informed me last week that she would be resigning her role on DPAC. It's effective as of this meeting because she's not at this meeting, but I did want the committee members to know that in addition to Barbara Daly resigning from the committee, that Lindsay Liebig has resigned as well. And so I'll be talking with the chair of our commission about whether we just ride with these resignations until the springtime, when we will have members of the committee up for either reappointment or appointment of new members, or whether we officially try to replace these vacancies prior to that. So more to come on that, but I did want to give you all a heads up about your fellow committee members.
Great, thank you, Eric. And that's why the quorum now is at 7. So we're good to go. All right, moving to agenda item 3. This is our charter requires that we elect annually a DPAC chair and a DPAC vice chair. The chair appears as a standing agenda item on every commission meeting to give a report from the committee and whatever actions we've taken, reports we've heard, and any other business coming before the committee would be reported to the commission at that time. So the person who would be elected chair, it's important to calendar those commission meetings and make appearances at the commission meetings on behalf of the committee. So with that said, unless there are any questions or comments, I want to open it up for nominations for chair, and then the new chair, it's appropriate for the new chair to conduct the election for vice chair. And we've got 2 new people, Morris and Nate. You see those, Eric?
Yeah, Morris has joined the meeting. Welcome, Morris. So
Okay,
we're now at 8 committee members present.
Morris, we're just starting with the election of chair and vice chair, agenda item 3 in our meeting agenda. Bring you up to speed. There you go, very good. All right, nominations are now open for chair. Are there any nominations for chair of this committee?
Hi, everyone. It's Mariah from Restore the Delta.
Hi, Mariah.
So I sent an email to Eric and Mark earlier about the best way to do this, but it seems that my timing was off, and I know that everybody's getting back from the holidays, so I didn't actually have the opportunity to call people and email people as I wanted to, but I would like to nominate myself for chair. I do a lot of Delta work. I'm a very proud alumni of the Delta Leadership Program, and my role within my organization is shifting to the point where I have more capacity to take on something like this. Restore the Delta is very lucky that we have been able to fund people to take on issues that I was currently doing. So now my focus is more on administrative and development work. And so I would be very honored to serve as chair of this committee. And I can answer, if anybody has any questions, I would love to answer them. But that's kind of my piece with this.
Mariah, let's do this first. Sure.
Sure.
It's in order for you to nominate yourself, of course. So your
Sure.
nomination is now in. Why don't we see if there are any other nominations first?
Yeah, of course.
Kind of get an idea of who is so excited and wants to serve.
Absolutely.
Whatever it may be. And then have questions. That way we have the panel in front of us. Douglas, go ahead.
Oh, is Bill Wells on the slate?
Bill's not a member of the committee, right, Bill? No, you're not a member of the, so, but thank you. Yeah, we have, Douglas, we have to nominate somebody who's a member of the committee.
Okay.
Yes, I'm not a member, but thank you. I appreciate the thought, Douglas. Thanks.
All right.
I'm a past member.
Okay.
Are there any other nominations for chair? Are there any other calling twice? Any other nominations for chair? Everybody's thinking about it. Maybe not. Everybody's glad that I'm not calling out names. Is there last call? Any other nominations for chair? Okay, nominations are closed. Mariah, you're not elected yet. Are there any questions for Mariah? No questions. Everybody's thought about this. Everybody's happy. Okay. No, looking. No questions.
I got a question.
Yes,
Sure.
Russ.
Mariah, could you briefly give us a breakdown of your career? You know, what have you done in the past? Where'd you come from? And just kind of give us a flavor of who you are.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'd love to. Born and raised Stocktonian. I now live in Sacramento, so I'm really excited. I just moved here. I spent my life in Stockton, not knowing anything about the Delta. And so while I was in college, I got an internship with Restore the Delta, and that completely changed the trajectory of my career. I was a marketing person. When I graduated, I worked in marketing at a marketing firm, and was doing a lot of community organizing around a lot of different social justice issues. And so the social justice and world in Stockton is pretty small. And when it was time for the person who was in my position at Restore the Delta, she was leaving to go to the ACLU. They scouted me because of the work that I have done in the community of Stockton to be a part of Restore the Delta. And so that was in March of 2018. And that totally changed my life. I am extremely dedicated to the Delta now and its protection, especially. I've been a major part of the redevelopment of Restore the Delta. A lot of you might know us as a Stop the Tunnels organization, but within the past 3.5 years since I've been there, we have completely changed our mission, and we're focused on a lot of other aspects of the Delta, like working on the Delta. And of course, that is not all on me, but we are a small organization, and my work has been a very integral part of that process. And so even joining this commission was really important to me. I love to be able to represent my organization and the city of Stockton, but now I think that I kind of know how this commission works a little bit more, and I would be very honored to serve as chair, because I think that my career and my ideas could help, hopefully, with some of the work that we want to get done here and represent to the DPC board.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Mariah, what direction, as chair, what direction would you want to take in leading this committee in the future?
Sure. Well, I mean, I have big shoes to fill. Mark, you've done a great job. I know that sometimes I have 6 interns and it feels like herding cats. And so I can't even imagine, sometimes what it's like to, wrangle a bunch of adults into figuring out, when to meet and having everybody show up and helping set agendas and things like that. But I think that I've never shied away from a challenge. And I think that this is the kind of challenge that going forward in my career is something that I'm really up for. So I think that although you've done an incredible job, and I like I said, I have big shoes to fill, I think that I want to see what it's like to be in that kind of position, to make sure that things, that everybody's on the same page, and hopefully we can get as much participation as possible in like a really, really meaningful way. Not that it has not been meaningful before. I want to continue that, and hopefully we don't necessarily have to meet quorum. I'm hoping that we just have everybody wants to participate all the time. And that's a big stretch, but it's something that I'm up for.
Very good. Let me just cut away for a minute. Chris, welcome, Chris. Chris and Jennifer and Vicky joined us. We are on agenda item number 3, which is the election of a chair and vice chair. I think they.
Yeah, thank you, Mark, for welcoming us to the meeting. And I'm pleased to listen to the comments by my fellow Stocktonian, Mariah. So looking forward to working with her.
Thank you, Chris.
So where we are in the nomination process is we've opened nominations. 1 nomination's come forward, Mariah. No other nominations. We closed nominations, and we're now in Q&A. Where this is the one chance to grill Mariah. So hopefully, folks, if they want to take that. So, Chris, anybody who's joined us, I want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to ask Mariah questions. Any questions, Chris, or anybody else that you want to pose to Mariah?
Well, thank you again, Mark, and I really appreciate the opportunity to be welcome. I'm sorry I was rushing from another meeting to this one, but I made it.
That's just
So, yeah, and glad to let me take the opportunity first, Mark, to thank you for your leadership and that of Barbara Daly as well for many years of shepherding this team together. And then as far as Mariah is concerned, I have confidence that she will bring to bear her incredible knowledge about the Delta to inform our conversations and discussions and recommendations on this team. So having said that, then, perhaps then, I know you asked the question, what Mariah's priorities were for the DPAC, and maybe I will phrase it differently and ask what will be her top 2 or 3 priorities that she would like to see this DPAC committee accomplish in the next 12 months. This is the beginning of the year, and I recognize it's overlapping 2 fiscal years. But if you were to take down the wall of fiscal year and just look at it as one running calendar year, what will be your top 2 or 3 priorities to move this committee forward?
Sure. Thank you for that question, and thank you for your kind words, Chris. I really appreciate that. Well, I mean, we're still unfortunately on Zoom, aren't we? And I think that, I mean, given the kind of world that we're still in, again, I think my number 1 priority is to, encourage more participation. I think that would be number 1. I know that these meetings are late, and for some of us, we are on Zoom a lot during the day, so there is burnout from that. But I think that my number 1 would be to encourage participation, because especially we get incredible presentations that happen here, and I think that I would love for more people to just participate in those conversations. And number 2, I mean, I would hope that I can't say that I know when we'll be able to meet in person. But I know that it's kind of hard to build rapport over screen, but I think that my second priority would be that I would like for us to all, build a little bit more rapport for this committee and commission. I know that we all work in different aspects of Delta work, but I would really like for us to kind of be a little more of a community aspect as far as the committee goes. And again, it's hard to kind of build that when we're on Zoom, but I think that if we were able to get more of, more participation going and people, really making this a priority and making the work that we want to do and some of these presentations more of a priority, I think that we could achieve that. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it did, Maria.
Thank you.
All right, so basically 12 months from now, next first meeting in January 2023, we'll be grading you on a scale of A to F, or 1 to 10, depending on whatever scale we'll finally settle on. So your performance is something we're going to be watching very closely, just so you know. And then at that point in time, if you make the passing grade, we'll give you a raise. So
sure.
Now, Chris might be saying he's going to, you maybe, huh? I heard that.
And I wanted to ask you, what are you going to do about COVID? Got to do something about COVID on your performance plan.
Oh, I don't work for CDPH. Let me defer to my lawyer, aka my best friend who works for the Department of Public Health.
Just kidding.
Okay, so I'm looking at the clock and I put 10 minutes down for this and we're at 30. So any other questions for Mariah? Hearing none, Eric, unless there's objection, why don't we vote? I know we have to vote by roll call. We just vote by thumbs up. That'll be our roll call, but we have to have video on, or we can, let's just use video. Can all the members be sure just to turn your video on?
Yeah, and you could also ask if there are any objections to, I mean, you do have a sole, appoint a nominee as chair. So
I do. So let me ask for this. Unless there's objection, the chair would order substitution of the roll call for the vote. That means if you're in the roll call, you were here. That means you're voting aye. Unless there's objection, going once, twice, so ordered. The roll call is substituted for a vote. Mariah, you're unanimously elected as chair. Congratulations.
Thank you all so much. I'm really looking forward to it.
Now your first job is to elect a vice chair.
Okay, great. No pressure or anything. I think that we can go ahead and open it up for because I was elected. Thank you all so much. We can open it up for nominations for vice chair. Russ, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I'd like to put my name in the hat for vice chair. And I'll wait for others if they want to put their name in the hat before saying anything further.
I know.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Russ.
Shoot here.
Is there anybody else who would like to nominate anybody or themselves for vice chair?
Well, I would like to nominate Chris Elias as vice chair.
Thank you, Douglas. See, we need to have some kind of a geographical diversity within the leadership. So I really thank you very much for that honor. But since Mariah and I are kind of from the same geographical area, perhaps we need to kind of spread the wealth. What do you think?
That
Good
is very
idea?
democratic.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, Chris.
Yeah, sure.
Is there anybody else? Last chance. I don't see anybody. Okay. Shall we open it up? Does anybody have any questions for Russ? Russ, do you want to go ahead and give us
Yeah.
a little tidbit about you?
Yeah, so I've been involved in various water projects and throughout my career for 25, 30 years. I've been in the Delta for the last 10 years. I'm a resident of Woodland, California up here. And what I bring to the table is a lot of diversity. Yeah, I work for Metropolitan and there's that tunnel, that so-called tunnel project. I'm not about that. I'm about creating bridges to solutions, solutions that we can agree to. And I honestly believe when you foster that kind of relationship professionally to bridge those things that we could agree on, it's amazing what you can do as a group to bridge other things. There's always going to be the controversies out there, whether it's water or otherwise. But the key thing is to come to the table to talk and vet out everyone's opinions and come to the best solution that everyone can live with and agree to. So I have a lot of hats. I sit on the board of trustees for 4 reclamation districts. So I have knowledge about levees. Obviously, I have knowledge about water supply and water quality. I also have a lot of knowledge as I'm managing a $1 million grant to look at restoration, agricultural sustainability on Metropolitan's island. So I'm leading that effort to look at different opportunities that does benefit the Delta. We also look at the levees in terms of how we meet future needs for sea level rise and other things. And I'm also very cognizant and sensitive to social justice as well. That's something that I of the recent years have learned more about and understand it better. I've very much been involved with regulatory side as well. We're basically, who's regulating as well as state budget recommendations. So I'm involved in that as well to know where the money comes from and help leverage for various things. And the reason why I say that, because that's going to be important as we look at the national heritage projects. And so there's a lot of different strategies I've been involved with in the past to seek those forward. And to wrap it up, I'm a great support to the chairman. Whatever the chairman, she wants to move forward, Madam Chair, I'm completely supportive of that, and I have ideas to help promote success.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing, Russ. Does anybody have any questions for Russ? No questions. Are there any objections to Russ's election as vice chair? I don't see any objections either. Okay, so can we go ahead and get, if there are no objections, can we get a vote to elect Russ Bryan as vice chair of the Delta Protection Advisory Committee?
Yeah, I think by offering an opportunity for people to object, it will just be as the previous vote occurred.
Perfect.
It will be by affirmation. So
great. So if there are no objections, then we have just elected Russ Bryan as vice chair of DPAC. Thanks so much, everyone.
All right.
Thank you.
Looking forward to serving with you, Russ.
Likewise, Mariah, very much so. Perfect.
So now we can go ahead and move forward. Since I'm now chair, we can move forward with our agenda. Let me get that back open.
yeah, so agenda item 4 is an update on the proposed Delta as Place survey of Delta residents. And Dr. Jessica Rudnick, who's the Sea Grant Fellow for Delta Social Science at the Delta Stewardship Council, and Lita Bridey, who is on the DSC team as well, are here to present on that item.
Perfect. So whenever you all are ready.
Great. Well, thank you for having us. Thanks, Eric, for helping us coordinate, and congratulations, new Madam Chair and new Vice Chair. It's nice to come back and join you all. I was here to present to the DPAC probably about 9 months ago now, early 2021, and I've been to a couple meetings since then, and I appreciate the chance to come back. And I'll give my colleague Lita a chance to join on if she is still here. I actually don't see her right now.
Yeah, she's here. And actually, I've made both of you
Oh, there,
co-hosts
Lita.
as well. So whenever you want to pull up if you have any slides you want to pull up.
Great. I will start my screen share, and Lita, go ahead and introduce yourself as well.
Sure, thanks, Jess. I'm Lita Bridey, and I am on the Delta Residents Survey team. I also serve as the Regulatory Review Analyst at Delta Stewardship Council. I'm very happy and appreciate you having us here to present to you today. I'll leave questions at the end if you want to know more about my background, but Jess is going to share the purpose of us being here and why it's so important, and how we would like to involve the DPAC.
Excellent. Thanks, Lita. And can everybody see my slide now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, we have a couple of visuals here, just 3 quick slides. And our purpose of joining today was to give you all a bit of a brief update of some of our ongoing efforts to integrate more social science into the Delta Stewardship Council and Delta Science Program work. And that really focuses around a better understanding of what this concept of Delta as a place means. So I want to share a couple of activities that we're working on in that area. And then we would like to introduce a new project that we're starting to try to build a household survey of Delta residents. And I'll give a spoiler alert right now that we're asking for DPAC members' participation for anyone who's interested in conducting our first round of interviews to try to inform this survey and make sure that it's asking relevant questions and getting the type of data from your represented, the communities you represent, the towns and cities and neighborhoods that you all are here on the committee to represent, making sure that the survey is adequately measuring some of the pieces that might be interesting and relevant. So that's where we'll conclude, by sort of introducing what those interviews are and seeing if anyone here is interested in participating. But I'll start first by saying that our effort to integrate more social science into the Delta is really focused on trying to better understand the Delta communities. And that includes some of the social justice issues that Mariah was mentioning. It includes understanding how people behave and respond to change, whether that's social change or environmental change or management issue change in the Delta. It's understanding how we integrate people, everyday people's perspectives and attitudes into our policy and management and science decision-making. And so those are the goals of our social science work. It's trying to bring more of our understanding of the people living in the Delta, working in the Delta, into the conversation alongside all of the data that we collect on water quality and fish populations and number of acres restored and levee maintenance, all of the physical and biological side of the Delta. We don't have as much information on the human elements. So our big effort this year has been trying to build into all of the council's projects more opportunities for participation and for Delta residents and communities to be having a perspective on how we think about these issues. So one big project that the Delta Stewardship Council is working on is related to climate change adaptation. It's the Delta Adapts project, which I know many folks here have been involved in. And so in addition to having these technical focus groups, we're also planning to host a Delta landowner focus group in February. And so the purpose of that is really to hear landowners' perspectives on what changes they're observing and what the climate impacts that are most concerning to them are, and use that as informing how we go about developing this adaptation approach. The second big project that we focused on is around our environmental justice paper, which the goal of that is to think about how we integrate more principles of environmental justice into the Delta plan and the work that the council does. And so we're starting that paper by conducting interviews with different organizations working across the Delta, as well as community members who are actively involved in those organizations. So I know that we've spoken with a few of you here on that project as well. And then the last big project that we're working on is to start developing a household level survey for Delta residents. And that's what we wanted to share more information on today. So I'll advance here and give you just some text. I'm going to basically verbalize the same thing, but for anybody who's tired of listening to the virtual meetings all day, here it is to read as well. So the idea behind starting a household level survey in the Delta is to start collecting more data on the people living and working in the region, and to gain a better understanding of what different Delta communities value in terms of natural resources, agricultural resources, cultural values in the region. And hopefully this will help us better understand what this concept of Delta as a place means. And Delta as a place is important because it's in the statutory language from the California legislature on how we should manage the Delta, by putting the same prioritization on water supply and ecosystem restoration and Delta as a place. And that's really trying to understand what the communities living in the Delta want and prioritize. We're hoping that by developing a survey, we can start a long-term data collection effort so that we can look at how the communities in the region is changing over time in terms of economic change, land use change, how the towns, both in the rural center and in the urban surrounding areas, are changing. And that we hope this can be representative data so that we get good input from across the Delta geographically, as well as the different demographic groups that we know are that make up different parts of the Delta communities. In terms of the approach for this work, we have applied for competitive research funding from the Delta Science Program. And this project is going to be funded as a pilot as part of the Delta research funding. The goal is to determine how to sustainably fund this long-term, which might be a multi-agency effort, or we might look for other funding sources. But the first year of the survey will have support from the Delta Science Program. And we're planning to partner with Sacramento State, that has a leading survey research center. They conduct statewide public opinion polls every year. And so they have a lot of the expertise to help us implement this. And they've also worked with the DPC before, and the Valley Vision Group that has done different polls on broadband internet and the Great Delta Trail. And so they have some expertise in the Delta as well. And then we have research collaborators at UC Davis, UCLA, and Oregon State University as well. You may be wondering why Oregon State. The Puget Sound estuary in Oregon and Washington has done a big household level survey as well, and has started to integrate human well-being into their estuary management approach. And so we're lucky to collaborate with the lead scientists for the survey work up there. And then our plan for actually getting this survey out to Delta residents is to send postcards through snail mail to all of the residential addresses in the interior rural part of the Delta, as well as a sample of residential addresses in the urban surrounding areas, including Stockton, West Sacramento, and Contra Costa, Pittsburgh, Antioch, urban regions around there. And then those postcards will have a QR code to an online survey, or allow folks to request a survey via mail if they have limited internet access. And we're planning to translate the survey into Spanish and Chinese as well. And so alongside doing this distribution approach, where we hope to get more folks than the usual communication channels, we'll ask for a lot of community support to do outreach and to advertise, and to ask, your communities, your networks to support and respond if folks are able. And we'll have a very small token of appreciation, a small incentive for folks who participate, because we know time is limited, and it's there's a lot of stress on folks' time right now. So I just want to share the two sort of focus areas that we're thinking for this survey, and we would love to hear input or any feedback that you all have today on this. But we're thinking of two different sections on the survey. One being focused around well-being and sense of place. And this, again, really hits on understanding what this Delta as place means, and how different people living in the different regions of the Delta, urban and rural, and the legacy towns, think about the Delta, what they value there, what they would like to see protected and restored, their perspectives on different management approaches to the key issues, and then their sort of grounding or sense of place and connectivity to the region. And then the other major section will be around environmental change and impacts. And so I'd like to hear how people are observing change, what they've experienced around the drought, whether that's the salinity barrier or water quality changes. If there are flood conditions this winter, what that looks like for residents. And then hear about priorities and preferences around climate adaptation. And I'll hand it over to Lita to talk about what our next steps on this are, but I'll just say we've done a bunch of background work in the last couple of months to figure out what other survey data is available. And we're moving into a phase early this year to conduct these interviews, where we'd like to ask you all if you're interested in participating. And the idea behind the interviews is that we want to get more information to structure these questions in the most appropriate way. Then we're hoping to launch the survey in late summer or early fall this year. And we'll hopefully come back later this year to share more updates with you all then. So I'll hand it over to you, Lita, to just briefly cover the interviews.
Sure. And I'm toggling between screens, so if my video cuts off, I apologize. So what you're looking at right now, the green dot that is next to fall of 2021 is what we've already completed. And then the yellow dot is where we are now. And then the following dots on the timeline are items that still need to be complete. So referencing the yellow dot where we are now for spring of 2022, our interview, the interview questions that we mentioned before that we would like to conduct this month will be focused on the well-being questions that we mentioned in the two focus areas. And the questions are, the design of the interview tool has 10 questions total, and it will take between an hour and a half to conduct the entire interview. And we'll use Zoom or phone to simulate a face-to-face conversation with the interview questions. So today we're asking the DPAC members to participate in the interviews and provide your perspective and help guide our design of the survey. There is a small compensation for your time if you were to participate. And the soonest that we would like to start would be mid to late January. So if we could hear of your interest to be an interviewee in the next week or week and a half, or week to 2 weeks, sorry, excuse me, then that would be great. So I think now we will open up for questions and clarity, and Jess and I can tag team on answering those for you. Mark.
Hey, thank you guys for the presentation. I'm really glad that this is happening. This recalls a presentation I did in front of the independent science panel, where they finally produced a white paper on social justice, and it appeared to me they were at some long last implementing water code section 50. See if I can see the number correctly now. 55.0. Whatever it was that identified Delta's place as one of the essential criteria for moving forward with all Delta planning. And so thank you for doing this. And I'm going to ask Eric afterwards to give me, if you would, a copy of the presentation that was just on the screen. I'm going to share it with my Clarksburg Fire Commission board of fire commissioners. We meet this Thursday for our monthly meeting. And so we're going to be, of course, interested in this, and we'll discuss participating. I didn't see in the presentation of how we're to indicate an interest in participating. Is there a website, email, etc., that we should utilize to follow up on your request?
Yeah, in our haste, we forgot to leave our contact information. So we can leave that for you in the chat, if that's okay, or we can email the DPAC team via Eric.
My thought is both. That'd be my suggestion, subject to what the chair advises. But more communication is better. Thank you very much.
I saw Douglas next. I don't have an order, so I'm just gonna call who I see. So
thank you. Okay, my question is in November 2019, 2020. DCA just conducted a environmental justice survey. So I would like to know that is there any coordination between your survey and their survey? Are you sharing any data or anything like that?
Jess, do you want to take that one?
Sure. Yeah, thank you, Douglas. It's a great question. We've requested the data from the Department of Water Resources and the DCA. There's a couple of challenges, and one is that that survey really focused on the water tunnels project. And so we have to keep that in mind when we think about any of the response data that came in from folks who participated there. But we are hoping to learn from what we saw in that survey and build on it, and think about that as one point in time in 2019. And this survey would be done 3 years later in 2022. And so we can compare if there has been some change. We can also think about any differences between what people might say in response to a survey focused on the Delta Tunnel versus a survey focused on what residents would like to see prioritized in terms of Delta as a place, local values, local knowledge. So we're doing our best to coordinate, but there's also some careful distinctions we want to make between that survey and this one.
Okay, because I was involved in the survey, so I do agree with you that they have the tunnel on the agenda, but I think the question they asked was pretty general. It's like, I mean, where do you go? Do you prefer to take a hike, or do you prefer bicycling? Yeah, so yeah, anyway, I understand what you're saying. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for the question. We'll use that data as much as we can. So yeah, I do want to make sure we're not duplicating that effort.
Thank you. All right, I'll move on to Russ.
Yes, thank you, Jessica. And what's your name? Lita? I'm sorry if I butchered it. My comments were similar to Doug. Doug, thank you for that comment of the previous surveys, because there were surveys that were done that I also was interviewed for that as well, from a Delta perspective, not from a water, exporter perspective. My comment also is, have you guys looked at some of the work that UOP had done in the past with regards to economic sustainability? And the reason why I bring that up is that kind of gives you kind of a map to look at where things are, are important into the economic engine that's a driver through the Delta and the businesses and the different towns. And then my second comment is, be sure to coordinate with the National Heritage Group, just because, they'll be having projects that could possibly have some opportunities for sharing of data and back and forth as well. So that's my question and comment. Thank you.
Thanks, Russ. Yes, the ESP, the Economic Sustainability Plan we've been reviewing, and we're attending for most of the recent update presentations to the Commission on the chapter updates there. Great point to lean on that and make sure we're building off of that. This is something that we would love to get Commission input as well, and maybe that's from you all and the board members, but this is an opportunity to ask residents directly about some of those sectors in the economy and their jobs and, residency in the long term. That is a much different level of data than what we can pull out of the census or other large data sets where we don't have individual people that can provide their perspective. And so I think I'm hoping that we can build off of that and really dig into some of the pieces that are most interesting in the economic sustainability plan that we don't currently have good data for in the Delta.
And also, if I have my mind and memory correct, the Delta Protection Commission also did some surveys too, as it related to recreation and other things too. So those would be very valuable to at least fill in the gaps where there may be no data for trends.
Yes. Yeah, we have worked with Eric and Virginia Gardner at the Commission to try to compile those recreation surveys and make sure we're, again, building off of that, not recreating a wheel, not doing something redundant, but also updating where we have pretty outdated data sources.
And then the last thing is I'm definitely interested in participating if you need some other perspectives from the Delta as well.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Gil?
I don't want to go before any DPAC members, so Mark, if you want to go first, that's fine.
I'll be sure. Dr. Ridden, can I call you Jess? Is that okay?
Yeah, please.
Okay. One of the projects that this committee worked on, I want to say maybe 2 years ago, and thinking about, I have the water code section now, 85054, was to ask the commission, Delta Protection Commission, to officially advise the Stewardship Council to reorganize the Delta plan on the subject of Delta's place, to take Delta's place out of its own special chapter, chapter 5, and to integrate it throughout chapters 1, 2, 3, and 4. The observation that we had in the execution of the Delta plan, its implementation, its understanding, was that the legislature appeared to us in enacting the section 85054, the water code, to contemplate that Delta's place would be an integrated part of the other parts of that sentence, the chapters 2, 3, and 4, rather than kind of not so much an afterthought, but as a separate piece of the understanding of the Delta and its operation. And the commission adopted our recommendation and formally proposed to the Stewardship Council that reorganization. So I don't think that's happened yet. I don't know that the Delta Stewardship Council take an official action on that recommendation. Given what I said, and what are your thoughts on that that restructuring of the Delta plan to better accommodate what you're about and what's happening at the Stewardship Council?
I can take that one.
Thanks, Lita.
Sure. So best way I can explain is that we have a series of events that leading up to an amendment to the Delta plan. And in order to inform changes with that recommendation, we'd also wanted to take further recommendation from those who are impacted by the Delta and other agencies and so on. So the survey is one way in which we'd like to get feedback from the residents, and this feedback could inform further changes to that chapter. So I don't believe that the council has taken any position on any changes that are going to occur for the chapter officially. But the work to amend the chapter is going forward. So I think at a later time, we would announce exactly what that would be. But this is a very, very, very first step in informing the Delta as a Place chapter. There's other work simultaneously happening for Delta as a Place in other units, but there's no official position as of yet. So efforts that we have today and your participation will still go towards the Delta as a Place chapter, but when and in what way that would happen will unfold as we go forward. Does that answer your question?
Yes. So what I heard you say was we're still thinking about it, and if let me know if that's not a fair summary. But I don't mean to oversimplify, but that's why I think I heard you say.
Yeah, and most importantly, that it's not a lost recommendation. I don't want anyone to feel like any participation that they have, whether it's making a direct recommendation or adding their voice to the survey, is going to be lost along the way, or collecting data, including other recommendations. So don't expect it to disappear later on, was why the point I was trying to make.
If I can just amend what I said earlier, I mean, as a resident of Delta myself, and speaking, to my neighbors all the time about, these kinds of matters, we understand that recommendation is perhaps a heavy lift, but an important one for making the document usable and understandable on the ground and in the counties, and in, even like little pieces of government, like the fire district that I chair the board for. That would be helpful, right, to us as we are first responders, and so that would be helpful. So, and we think it'd be more faithful to what the legislature intended, that in our view. So anyway, thank you very much.
Thanks, Mark.
So I just want to step in really quickly before Gilbert asks his question. There is a hard stop today at 7 o'clock. So Gilbert, if your question, I'll go ahead and let you ask it. And then after, we're going to have to move on to the next item on the agenda, but we will follow up with DPAC later with this survey. And I see that Jess and Lita have put their emails in the chat. So if you want more information, you can also go ahead and get that. And if they send us any information, we'll make sure to send it out to you all too. So after Gilbert's question, we're going to go ahead and move on.
Okay, thanks. First, I have a comment. 2 of my 3 kids graduated from Oregon State, so having Oregon State involved, it's not all bad. So I'm in favor of that. Tell Chelsea and the others that from Oregon State, I support them. My question actually is a little bit like Mark's. So the levy investment strategies just start off on rulemaking again, and your process looks like the timing is going to be about the same. Is your Delta as Place, your social science, going to be incorporated into the investment strategy this time, or how's that going to be handled?
Yeah, it's a similar vein of a question. The best I can say is that we would love to have the better available data to inform many of the management and investment decisions going in the Delta. It's above my and Lita's pay grade to make decisions on how that data actually informs decisions. But the objective of the project is to really start building better understanding of the residents, the community's needs, so that it can be incorporated alongside the other data sets that are used to inform those decisions. We are, trying to move on this in a timely way, but also want to make sure we hear from all the voices that need to inform this to be a relevant effort. So we'd like to move it along and not, rush or miss anybody that we really need to talk to. So there's a very wish-washy answer for you in that we would love the data to inform upcoming decisions, and we want to make sure it's done well and rigorously, and that we can trust that what we see is reliable and representative of the diverse population in the region. So yeah, if there are deadlines that it would be from your perspectives that are important for this data to exist for, we'd love to hear that feedback too. But doing our best to move it along. Okay, well, thanks so much for the time today, and we definitely respect your meeting agenda, and we'll send follow-up through Eric to share with the DPAC members.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Jess and Lita, for your presentation. Look forward to hearing more. So now we will move on to agenda item 5, and Eric will go ahead and do a brief introduction.
Sorry if I can get myself unmuted. Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, this is a report on the State Lands Commission effort to remove abandoned and derelict vessels in the Delta. And just as brief background for the committee members, it's hard to believe I'm saying this, but former Assembly member Jim Frazier, because if you don't know, he resigned from the legislature effective last week. So he's now former Assembly member Jim Frazier, was instrumental in securing $12 million in the current fiscal year budget directed to the State Lands Commission for removal of abandoned and derelict vessels. This follows on earlier work that also links to legislative efforts of Assemblyman Frazier for the State Lands Commission to develop a plan for abandoned and derelict vessel removal, specifically commercial vessels, which I think our speakers from the State Lands Commission will define what that is, but not the recreational craft. There's already a program to remove those, but the commercial vessels that are very difficult to remove and ideally gotten out of the water before they become an abandoned and derelict vessel. So today we have Andrew Kirshen, who's an attorney with the State Lands Commission, and Vicki Caldwell, who is a program manager. And I have to apologize to both of them because the request for this was very last minute when everyone was off on break and a lot of people were on vacation. And so they probably just got hit with this yesterday, but I really appreciate the willingness of both of them to attend and participate this evening. And with that, I will turn it over to them if that's okay, Madam Chair.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
Hey, thank you so much, Eric. And good evening. My name is Andrew Kirshen, and as Eric said, I'm a staff attorney with the California State Lands Commission. I'm going to talk just a little bit about where we've been with abandoned vessels and then some of the recent developments and where we hope to go pretty soon. I would guess that you people are familiar with the State Lands Commission, but just in case you aren't, the California State Lands Commission is vested with jurisdiction over most of the state's natural water courses. So that's an awful lot of water in the Delta, as you might imagine. So y'all probably interact with us pretty frequently. And I don't want to pretend like I know more about the Delta than any of you. I'm sure I don't. I'll agree that the Delta is pretty important to California. we couldn't live without it. And it's also economically tremendously valuable. And unfortunately, commission staff and probably yourselves, you may have noticed that there are abandoned vessels in the California Delta waterways. I haven't been around that long, but my understanding from talking to people who have been around longer than I am is that people seem to think that there was an uptick in the number of abandoned vessels sometime around like the economic crisis of 2008, 2009. I think we're probably still seeing some of that, and maybe we're going to see more after the events of the last couple of years. So many state and local agencies have authority under the Harbors and Navigation Code to remove and to some extent sell or dispose of abandoned vessels that are in the water. My commission, the State Lands Commission, has some additional authority in the Public Resources Code. We can have vessels declared legally abandoned and then take formal ownership of them and direct their disposition. As Eric also mentioned, the state does have a grant program that this State Parks Division of Boating and Waterways, they can provide grants to local agencies to remove recreational vessels from state waterways. Commercial vessels, on the other hand, are not funded in any way through that grant program. And there actually is no definition presently in state law of what commercial versus recreational vessel is, but we all have some idea, right? There's common usage. So when I talk about commercial vessels or think about them, I'm often thinking about like fishing boats and tugs and barges. There's former military vessels, so things like that. And these, as Eric also mentioned, these really pose a significantly greater difficulty when they're left somewhere in a waterway. They tend to be much larger, they're heavier, they're much more durable, made out of sturdier materials. They also tend to contain a much larger amount of hazardous materials. So your fuels and petroleums, toxic metals that are used in the special paints. There's mercury switches, all sorts of things can be on board, batteries, lots of different sort of toxic fluids and lubricants. And perhaps most important today, they're tremendously more expensive to remove and dispose of than your average cabin cruiser or bass boat. So the commission and especially as a former assembly member, Mr. Frazier, have really been working on this question of what to do with commercial vessels for quite a few years. In 2018, Frazier carried a bill that asked us to prepare this ADV plan, this commercial ADV plan. ADV means abandoned and derelict vessel, commercial ADV plan for the Sacramento San Joaquin Delta. And we did prepare that in July 2019. It's up on our website. If you haven't looked at it, you can find it pretty easily by going to our website and looking on our abandoned vessels page. So that plan envisioned an ongoing program, so an annual allocated program, budgetary allocation that would include staff and ongoing resources to really tend the problem over a long period of time. Now, unfortunately, the bill that Frazier 2018, the funding mechanism for it was stripped out at that time. So although we did prepare the plan, there was no funding provided along with it. The good news, this last budget, or the current budget that we're in now, the legislature did grant $12 million to the commission, and with a pretty broad remit there. They said to remove abandoned and derelict vessels from the Sacramento San Joaquin Delta region. So that's great. That was, of course, very welcome over at our agency, and we're excited to start doing the work. So what we're doing now is filtering our thoughts down and putting them down on paper to take to our commission at a public meeting. We expect at the end of February to present the outline of what we think is accomplishable with a one-time budget allocation, the $12 million. Of course, our goal is just to use the money wisely, achieve the greatest public benefit that we can with the money. So what we're thinking about right now as the program components is we want to do some sort of foundational aspects first. The couple most important would be of the Delta waterways to really find out what's out there. We have some idea. We do maintain a database. We've gathered some information from Coast Guard. We gathered some information from the California DFW. So we have some idea, but nobody, to our knowledge, has done an actual sort of thorough survey to look for commercial abandoned vessels in the Delta waterways. Now, when I talk about the Delta right now, I know there's of course many different definitions for it. We're intending to focus on the legal Delta in the water code, and that's just a way to define the area and somewhat reduce the scope. We thought, well, if we leave Sassoon Bay out, if we leave San Pablo Bay out, some of the other Montezuma Slough, that area, Grizzly Island, it focuses our efforts a little bit better. And we also know that really the interior Delta, the legal Delta, tends to be the area where we see more problems. So a survey, it will be really the first step. The second thing that we'd like to do is do a CEQA analysis of the different habitats that could be affected, the different removal methods. We're imagining it as a programmatic level CEQA document. We don't know what sort of document it might be yet, or an MND, we're not sure. That'll of course come through the analysis, but we want to make sure that we're not going to go out there and do more harm than good, that environmental impacts, to the extent they can be mitigated, will be mitigated. Once we have those two documents in hand, which we're hoping we can get done this year, 2022, then what we intend to do is look at the survey and prioritize vessels for removal based on their threat to the environment and public health and safety. In our 2019 plan that we put together, we outlined an idea of how to do that prioritization, so using a number of different factors, and we expect to use something very similar to that. But we also intend, and we hope, that the public and our sibling agencies will be involved in that prioritization effort. And of course, the CEQA process is a public process, so people will be able to be involved there as well. So our goals then are to get that foundational work done in 2022 and then start actually implementing the plan, removing vessels in 2023. We think with $12 million, that will fund 3 to 5 years of removal efforts, just depending on how quickly we can move and which vessels. In my experience, at least, the few that I've been involved with, removing a vessel and safely, destroying it is gonna cost from anywhere from $200,000 up to a couple $1 million per vessel. So it's unbelievably expensive. The $12 million is great, and we're excited to get it going, but it is going to be only a start. And that's all I had today. Eric's right. We did get this request pretty recently, so I didn't have any visuals just to show you today, but I'm happy to take any comments you might have now or try to answer any questions.
And Andrew, if I could just briefly add, we do have a commitment from the State Lands Commission team to attend our Delta Protection Commission meeting on January 20th. And there might be some additional details that will be presented at that time. So yep. For those who have a strong interest in this, you might want to tune in to our next Delta Protection Commission meeting on Thursday, January 20th.
Yeah, that's right. I expect by then we'll have a more formal a slideshow and maybe maybe packaged up just a little bit nicer than what I described right now.
I did put the link to the abandoned plan in the chat box.
Oh, thanks. So that's Vicky. That's my colleague here.
And I've been fortunate to work for the commission for the last 20 years, and I've spent most of my 20 years in the Delta. So I kind of know the Delta from the back of my hand. When I started, I got lost in the Delta a few times. I got stuck on a couple islands when they closed the gates and locked them on me. So I've had some pretty great experiences. I am now the compliance enforcement manager for the whole state of California. So I really work a lot in the Delta to ensure the waters are clean and safe and that everyone is under lease. So I'm just a chat phone call away. If anybody has any issues you want to bring up, anything we can do to help you in the communities, we're here to help.
Yeah. I
Thank
see.
you both. Thank you both so much. I think it's a Delta rite of passage to get lost on an island. It happened to me with Tyler Island a few times. So we are on a pretty tight schedule for the rest of our agenda. So Andrew and Vicky, if you could leave your contact information in the chat.
Yeah.
And Mark, I see you have your hand up. If you have a brief question, we can go ahead and get to that, and then we'll move on to agenda item 6.
Thank you, Mariah. That wasn't my plan to be talking all the time. I just want to say to the two presenters, it's more of a matter of personal preference, I guess. Jim Fry, who is a lawyer with Delta State Lands Commission. Two of you may know him. I went to school with him, and as it turned out, I had many interactions with the State Lands Commission, one of the most important and unheralded and unknown and vital parts of the state of California government structure. I learned that through Jim, and he's a great guy, and I'm really glad you're here. And hopefully this will be under Mariah's leadership and Eric's continuity. There'll be many more interactions with Lands Commission and this group, which I think will only benefit both sides.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I do know Jim. When I first started here about 4 years ago at State Lands, he introduced me to all the interesting boundary issues and history of the Delta. So yeah, I really admire Jim. He's a great wealth of knowledge and just a super person.
Yep, absolutely.
And he took me under his wing 20 years ago and trained me as, so it's been great.
I think Jim started with the commission as an attorney in about 1980. So he worked here almost 40 years. He did finally leave, right at the beginning of COVID, I guess, whenever that was 2 years ago. Yeah. Fully retired.
We went to school.
That's great.
Thank you, Mark, for your comments. So great, perfect. So we can go ahead now. Thank you so much, Andrew and Vicky. I know that I speak for myself and the committee that we're looking forward to more information with abandoned vessels and furthering this relationship with the committee and state land. So thank you so much.
So I just in the chat, my messages seem to just be going to you, Eric, not to everyone. So can you advance those? I don't know.
Yeah, and Vicky, I'll email you if you would, in response to my email, if you could provide the report, and then I will share that with our committee members.
There's a link to it.
Yeah, it's not a link that I'll be able to access. I think it's your internal file system there. So
got it. I'll provide you the report.
Okay, thank you for that.
I will.
Bye, everybody. Have a good night.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you so much. So now we'll go ahead and move on to agenda item 6. And just want to give a time check. We're at 6:25. So we have a hard stop at 7. So I just want to make sure that we know that that is a thing. So Agenda item 6, for those of you who don't have it in front of you, is receive and discuss the report on the Delta Conveyance Design and Construction Authority Stakeholder Engagement Committee. Say that 10 times fast, with Douglas. So Douglas, go ahead and take the stage.
Yes, my report. Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, my report is going to be brief. Okay, so the last SEC meeting was December 8th, and it's also the last meeting of the entire program. So basically, it's in the spirit of to wrap up and review. So basically, they did some more conceptual design update, and one of them is a flood model, which is like talking about moving the intake structure back by 15 feet inland. So to reduce its impact on the river flow. And then also the conceptual design objective is to minimize effects of the project on the community, such as traffic, waterways, construction, related effects, and farming, wildlife habitat. And they also try to avoid the increasing demand for emergency services. So they did all these update, and they're still in the stage of considering the two options, central alignment and eastern alignment, and the Bethany corridor over the southern Four Bay complex. My personal feeling is they will probably go for the eastern alignment because I think it's easier to connect to the Bethany corridor. But that's only my take. I mean, I don't think they want to take any position yet. Then they talk about the creation of the SEC, so make us feel important. So there has been 19 meetings since November 2019, and so we talk about the creation of the SEC. And the next step for them is to outreach to the community through different platforms, from public meetings to letters, e-blast to social media, so that the public can participate in the draft EIR public review process in mid-2022. So EIR is the environmental impact report. This is I think this is a big thing. It's gonna be our next defense. So I think we all should try to participate in this draft EIR public review process. And then after the public review process, then it will be followed by the final EIR, EIS, and yeah. Okay, so they are still considering themselves working with the community benefits program. I don't know how well is the community responding to it. And they are also still working for the environmental justice and disadvantaged communities, tribal consultation and outreach and agency coordination. So supposedly they're working on all this, even though the SEC is closed. Before the last meeting, and there was a movement to mobilize members to resign, so they would not be used as they will not be used as to endorse the DCA process. And Barbara Perella is being one of them. So I think the sentiment was, we at that point is the members should resign so that we can make the SEC less legitimate and less legitimate to fulfill, to showcase that they have done the due process of a public consultation. And otherwise, I think the whole committee kind of like closed on a good note. Even members usually represent some of the sternest opposition voice, try to leave them a good remark. And so this is so much for my report. And then at the Rotary meeting, and I heard my friend who runs a radio show on fishings, and he told me that there was a secret movement of, not secret, but the kind of quiet movement to divert the salmon from Yolo Pass to the river rest of the deep water channel, so the salmons would not enter the Sacramento River. And I don't know if anybody has heard about that. And otherwise, this is my report. I'm sure James has more to add to it. James Cox, do you have anything more to add to it?
Well, yeah, you pretty well covered it, Douglas. The I found that whole SEC experience to be very frustrating. They had me there to talk about fishing, but when I would talk about fish, they didn't want to hear it. So it was, a very frustrating experience for me. Yeah, they are closing down, and of course I don't know how to put this without trying to be delicate, but we have not gotten straight information from them very often. The meeting before last, the chairman said she would be lobbying to keep the committee going. Then this last meeting, she says she's making a motion to end the meeting. So end the panel. So I think they're slapping themselves on the back saying how great this was, but I don't see how they accomplished very much. And they really only changed two things that I could see on this whole plan based on recommendations from this committee. And so, I think the whole thing was a waste. I think they were just trying to have the appearance of transparency without really doing anything that would be actually transparent.
Yeah, I mean, basically, this is a show for them. And so my take is, whether we have a sit at the table to hear what they have to say, or not being used as a vehicle to endorse them as a due process of public consultation. So it's a trade-off between the two.
Thank you so much, Douglas. Does anybody have any questions or comments on his presentation?
So where do we go from here?
Isn't that the question we all want to know?
Well, supposedly we wait for the draft EIR to come out, and then we will start attacking.
Collaborating.
No, well, they don't need anybody to collaborate. I mean, if nobody said anything against them, it will be a train moving forward.
Yeah, Douglas mentioned the draft EIR is still anticipated to be out in April or May. That's what they keep saying. And so, look for it this spring. At the time the draft environmental impact report is released, there also will be more details about the proposed community benefit program. We might learn a little bit more about that prior to, but I think it's more likely that that will be revealed in the release of the environmental impact report.
Can I see your hand up? You're unmuted if that's what you're looking for, Jim.
Oh, okay. Well, I just wanted to make one additional comment. Was at the end of the meeting, they were talking about environmental impact reports and the public making comments on it. Now, I don't know if I got this really straight, but the impression I got from what they were saying was that they intend to have most of the public comment done through like a Zoom type meetings. And I think that's ridiculous, because the people in the middle of the Delta that have such horrible, broadband, they're going to be the ones that aren't going to be able to say something, and they're the ones that are going to be the most vocal against it. The people that are on the outskirts of the Delta that have better broadband, that are going to be less likely to speak against it, would be the ones that would be getting a chance to say something. I just think if they proceed that way, they are just trying to rig the deck.
So, hey, Jim, is this some communication that maybe we need to send or transmit to the commission to send up to the planning team there, so they know ahead of time to accommodate this type, to essentially recognize the constraints that the folks in the Delta deal with respect to broadband, and then make sure then to bring it closer for folks to be able to participate effectively. Would that be some kind of is that a possibility between Jim or maybe Eric, you can weigh in on this as well?
I have no idea about that.
Yeah, we'll, Chris, I appreciate the question. We'll always be looking for opportunities to better enable the Delta community to comment on a project of this magnitude, and it doesn't get of greater magnitude than the Delta Tunnel project. So yeah. I'm not sure exactly how they're rolling out the environmental impact report and the plans for seeking comment, or if they're doing any outreach, but we'll be paying close attention to that and making sure that it's maximized for the benefit of the people out in the Delta, however they're proposing to do it. But I don't know that once the EIR is out, it's really, on us to then digest the document. And I don't know that any kind of a public meeting they have would be terribly helpful unless it was, a court reporter that was transcribing comments on the EIR. That could have some utility, but let's see how they propose to do this. My guess is that they'll just unleash it into the world, and then it'll be up to us to review and digest it, and then provide comments through the normal means.
Well, I think it's important to find out that, okay, we know the SEC is a show. So we just want to make sure that EIR is not just a show.
Yeah, and just my other hat with Restore the Delta, that's what we do, is make sure that people understand these really complicated, big documents that, people without science degrees have a hard time understanding. So you can definitely look forward to hearing more from us, both, via email, like emails that we send out, all of that stuff. That's what we've done with every single EIR that has come out with any major water project within the past 15 years. So if there are ever any questions, please feel free to email me, and we can talk more about that too. I think Russ has a question, and then we can go ahead and move on.
Yeah, real quick. I know there's another bite at the apple, so to speak, with the Delta Stewardship Council and the consistency determination. I'm assuming once the EIR, AIS has gotten their public comments in, then at some point it goes before the commission, correct? For consistency determination?
Oh, you mean the Delta Stewardship Council? Yes.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that would be.
I wish it came before the commission for the certification of.
I'm sorry. Yeah, my apologies.
You got me excited there for a moment, Russ.
Well, you got the commission is going to weigh in anyway, but the council for sure, because that's, I think, what caused them to have to go back was because of the previous consistency determination was remanded back to DWR. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for that. And I just want to share, we definitely, there's so many moving parts to this, and there have been. So, and for the past however many years that this has been fought. So Douglas, I know that just being a part of that committee is, very honorable in its own sense, right? So thank you. Thank you for showing up to those meetings, and thank you for your report today. And I've heard it all from Barbara, my boss. So I know that, a 3-hour meeting, especially on Zoom, is really difficult when you're dealing with information of this, magnitude. So we can go ahead and move on to agenda item 7, which is to receive an update on DPC activities from Eric. So go ahead and take it away.
Great. Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I just have a few things I want to report on to you all. And I'm a little disorganized because I took some days off last week, and it's been a bit of a tsunami that approached me as I came back this week. But here's a few things happening that I do want you all to know about. First off, our commission meeting on January 20th will again be on Zoom. Our authorization to do these meetings as state public agencies on Zoom expires on January 30th. My suspicion is that the governor will issue some kind of an executive order that will enable us to continue to meet via Zoom. So that's my presumption, but when this committee next meets, if there is no such emergency extension or legislative action, which I suppose is possible, though unlikely in such a short time period, then our only option to meet would be to meet in person. So just be prepared for that for when we next meet. But I'm pretty sure that we will have the ability, and it might be very well advised, to meet on the Zoom channel as we have been. So more to come, but we're all, just navigating this as blindly as we are. So more to come on that. The commission meeting on January 20th will be on Zoom, and a few of the items that will be, I keep looking off to my left because that's where my whiteboard is, reminding me of what's going to be on the agenda. We will have the Great Delta Trail Master Plan that this committee has done some really good work on and has provided good comment on. We do have that coming before the commission for final adoption. We'll be recommending that they adopt it, and we did incorporate some changes into that since we last presented that to DPAC in early November. And those changes are cataloged in one of the documents that will accompany the Great Delta Trail Master Plan. So if you are following that issue closely and are particularly interested in it, you'll want to pay attention to the meeting packet when we put that out next week for the January 20th meeting. Also on that meeting agenda will be an update on the National Heritage Area, specifically the timeline that we're anticipating to complete the management plan in 2022. We do intend to complete that and bring it to our commission prior to the conclusion of 2022. We'll have the report from the team at State Lands Commission about the abandoned and derelict vessels that you just heard. We'll be presenting our 2021 annual report, which we're mandated to produce by our statute, and asking our commission to approve that. And then I expect that we will also be bringing an item for their consideration regarding the Delta Stewardship Council has released draft revisions to its appeal. Let me rephrase that. Draft revisions to its regulations regarding appeals of certifications of consistency. And what that means is when any project that has an effect on the Delta has to be declared consistent with the Delta plan. We just talked about the Delta Tunnel project back in the earlier incarnation, where it was brought to the Delta Stewardship Council, and ultimately DWR withdrew the project from Delta plan consideration because they saw the handwriting on the wall that it really wasn't ready for consistency with the Delta plan. If you appeal those certifications of consistency, whether it's on the Delta Tunnel or most recently on the Lookout Slough Habitat Restoration Project in the Cache Slough region, then you're proceeding under regulations that set the rules for how an appeal proceeding moves forward. And the Stewardship Council has recognized some shortcomings in their regulations, and so they are proposing changes to those regulations. I'm expecting that the commission will be commenting on those changes, not only specific comments, but more general comments about our statutory role in advising the Delta Stewardship Council on Delta as place, and our contention that we should be able to do that on any matter, including a certification of consistency appeal, even though we are not a named appellant to a proposed project. So that this is kind of arcane and getting down into the weeds, but it really gets to our statutory role in advising the Stewardship Council on Delta's place, and specifically how any project that would impact the unique Delta values, they need to hear our concerns, and if they're deemed to be feasible, to adopt them. That's what the legislation says. So that's going to be an item that will be on our January 20th commission meeting as well, and something that we'll be working on in the coming weeks. I don't know exactly what our comments are going to be yet. We're in the process of further digesting what those proposed changes are, but I do expect that that will be an item on the agenda. And then finally, if we have room, and if it, unless it continues to rain and snow of biblical proportions so that we can declare ourselves out of the drought, I think we will have some kind of an update from Department of Water Resources on the actions that they're contemplating taking as we go into the spring. Now, fortunately, you know, we're feeling a little better about things, but even if we continue to have a wet winter and a healthy snowpack in the Sierra, it's hard to believe that things will magically just be back to normal come next spring. I think we're still going to be feeling the effects of extended drought, even though we've had some kind of relief, and hopefully we'll have more relief as we get further into the winter. But I think that probably will be on the agenda as well. So that's the the January 20th commission meeting. In addition to that, I wanted to mention that we are convening our Delta Leadership Program 2022. And by the way, three of our committee, your committee members, Jim Cox, Morris Lum, and Douglas Shaw, are participants in the program this year. And we will convene for our first seminar this Friday. I'm pretty certain at this point that we are going to be moving it to Zoom, unfortunately, but we just feel like that would be the prudent thing to do, at least for this Friday. We're still holding open the hope that we can convene the group in person. It's so valuable to do so. And Chris and Mariah are alums of the program, so they know what I'm talking about. But anyway, we are convening the program for 2022, and it will start on Friday. And it will conclude on Friday, April 22nd. If you could mark that date on your calendar, we do intend to have the traditional post-program reception at Bogle Winery. I still need to confirm that with Bogle Winery, but they've been very generous and supportive of us in the past. And it will be somewhere. So mark that date, April 22nd on your calendar, which is also Earth Day. So how appropriate. The Department of Water Resources has released their recertification of consistency for the Lookout Slough Habitat Restoration Project. This is in the North Delta region in the Liberty Island, Cache Slough area. This was released last year, but was ultimately remanded by the Stewardship Council back to DWR, primarily over concerns about impacts to recreational use, recreational fishing, recreational access to Liberty Island Ecological Reserve, which is a unit of the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. And so DWR has recertified its project. They just released their official certification last week. And now the clock is ticking for interested parties to file appeals prior to the end of January. So more to come. We were quite involved with the last effort, primarily speaking to these recreation issues, and I'm sure that we're going to be involved in this one as well. So more to come on that. I think that is all. There was one other thing. Yes, there is one other thing, maybe more than one other thing. I'm excited to announce that we have some new staff joining the commission, and Claire Cooey, who is someone who is also a Delta, concerned Delta person and has participated in different of our efforts, is going to be joining us beginning next Monday. She'll be working a lot on administrative matters for the commission, but I'm hoping that we can free her up because she has a real deep interest in all things Delta. She's a Sacramentan, but is very active and has participated in a number of our efforts. And then Kirsten Pringle will be joining us in early February as a senior environmental planner. She'll be our lead on tracking local land use projects throughout the Delta region. She'll be our lead on helping to implement as best we can the Delta community action plans. And she'll be having various other assorted roles as well. But we're real excited to be welcoming those two individuals to our staff. And we still are trying to fill our commission clerk, who's also our front of office person. And then we will be fully staffed once again.
What is spelled Claire Cooey's last name?
Claire Cooey, C-O-O-E-Y.
Thank you.
And then Kirsten Pringle. And I mentioned Assemblyman Frazier. We have no other changes on our commission. We do, often have people coming on, coming off, but so far none. At the end of 2022, there will be some change because at least two of our county supervisor members will no longer be county supervisors at that point, either because of retirement or term limits. And so we'll have some new members going into 2023. And I will be talking with our commission, maybe even at the January 20th meeting, about the ongoing efforts to recruit for a new executive director. I think everyone knows I will be leaving by the middle of the year, but sticking around long enough to ensure a seamless transition to whoever succeeds me. And so that work will be gearing up in the coming months here. And I think that's all I have to report, Madam Chair, unless there are any questions.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for your update, Eric. Again, really sad to see you go, but you will be a much happier person, I'm sure, in retirement. So
no, I'm gonna miss you all.
Of course.
I'll be happy too. I try to be happy regardless. So
of course. Are there any questions for Eric's updates? We have about 5 minutes left if anybody has any announcements also. So, Eddie, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to let folks know I received notice this morning from the Department of Water Resources that they're going to be notching the false river barrier starting tomorrow. That may have been announced already this evening, but it's for the purposes of recreational vessel passage and fish migration. That's it.
Thank you so much. Russ.
Yes, mine's more along, not of announcement, but to thank Mark Pruner for his leadership. I mean, he's done a great job and continues with his interest in the Delta. As I know, Mariah, you're going to do just fine in that capacity. I've learned a lot from Mark over the years. I've learned a lot from Eric too. And I know, Eric, with your new endeavors, like Mariah said, you'll be happy, but you'll also be both of you will be thoroughly missed in the more detailed interaction for this committee. So I just wanted to extend my appreciation of both of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Russ.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you both so much. And Mark, I know that you're probably just an email or a call away if I have any questions. I would
Mayor.
Perfect.
It's gonna bill you now.
All I do is deal with attorneys. Even my best friend is one. I can't escape you all. I guess I have just a little bit of an announcement for Restore the Delta. We have hired a Delta science coordinator who will be heading our harmful algal blooms program. We're really excited about that. He is a graduate from CSU Monterey, and he's a microbiology guy. So we're really excited to learn more about harmful algal blooms in the Delta, starting, of course, in Stockton, but also working our way into Discovery Bay. And we're working with not just the State Water Board, but also Region 5. Really excited about that. And of course, I'll keep you all updated as that, continues, that project continues. And we're also looking for interns. So if you all have college students that that are interested in learning more about the Delta, please let me know. I will email you all a link, and it is a paid internship. So we're looking for folks interested in water policy and science. So really good opportunity for college students. It's all remote. The only thing is that they have to be in California, even if they are not living in the Delta, they have to be California residents. So that's all I have. And so we have 2 minutes. Douglas, you have your hand up.
Okay, my question is, Restore the Delta, is that a 501c3 organization?
We are, yes.
Okay.
Donations are tax deductible.
Yes, everything is tax deductible. And we are very cognizant of our 501c3 status. And so we don't do lobbying or anything like that. We keep that for the lawyers. we do a lot of fundraising though. That's actually what I'm moving into. So more development stuff.
Madam Chair, I'm going to leave now, and I apologize. I have a 7 p.m. meeting that I'm chairing, but our next meeting is slated for Tuesday, March 1st. And so that keeps to the first Tuesday of the month, but unless I'll let you all discuss it, but that's what our schedule has been, unless you all decide you would like to set a different schedule for these meetings, so.
Okay, perfect. Well, with that, I think that we can go ahead and adjourn now. Thank you all so much. I really appreciate your participation, and I will see you in March.
In February. Oh, March. Yeah,
March, yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Bye, everyone.
All right.
Thank you,
everyone.
Happy New Year.
Hey, thank you.